Welcome to episode 71 of the Epic Classroom Podcast. I'm Trevor Muir, and this is where we explore how to make learning meaningful, dynamic, transformative, epic, so students don't just get through school, they thrive because of it. All right, thanks for tuning in to the pod this week, everybody. Before we get started, talking about something I'm really excited to talk to you about today, I just want to throw it out there. On March 9th, I am holding my own workshop, so not put together by a school or a conference, and so there's no exclusion there. If you live in the Midwest or Michigan or really anywhere and you feel like spending the day together, I'm going to be holding my own workshop. It's the Epic Project-Based Learning Workshop on March 9th here in Ada, Michigan. I've rented out this beautiful facility at a place called Roselle Park, and it's like a retreat center, and it's gorgeous. And we're just going to spend the day together talking about how to make learning more authentic and engaging and hands-on and student-driven, but then also how to add your own flavor as an educator to that work. So whether you teach kindergarten all the way through seniors in high school, or even if you teach higher ed, or you're an administrator, or you do anything connected to education, this is a day that I think you will love. There's going to be some instruction, but then also some planned work time together. And it's sponsored by Forest Hills Public Schools. And so if you are a Michigan educator, you will get sketchies for this, so continuing education credit. But even if you are not a Michigan educator, you will still get a PD certificate to go towards your continuing education. So anyway, just want to throw that out there if you are interested. If you want to register or just learn more about it, you can go to my website at trevormuir.com/PBL-workshop. Which will give you all the deets. I really can't wait. So if you can't tell, I'm pretty pumped about it. So please check that out if you are interested. March 9th, starting at 8:30 a.m. And it's going to be a whole day workshop. Oh, and I'm catering it. And so there's going to be some really good food. You'll get a copy of my book. And we just get to hang out and geek out about the stuff we love about our work. Now, speaking of the stuff we love about our work, you know the old cliche, do what you love and you'll never work another day in your life. Have you heard that one before? Yeah, that's not real, right? Or here's another way of putting it. Yeah, that's a load of crap. No one loves every aspect of their job. And I think it's really important to say this out loud. I don't think anyone loves every single aspect of their work. And the expectation that you do just isn't helpful. And I've been thinking about this lately because, there's so much I love about what I do, right? And there's always been these elements that I love in my work, whether it was teaching middle school or high school or college students or working with teachers or getting to speak and giving keynotes, all these things. I've always found joy in my work, and yet I have never had a job or an aspect of my career where there wasn't stuff I didn't love or where I didn't like, right? There's always been parts that are difficult, right? And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right? There's parts of your work that you don't enjoy, that you get sick of, or don't find inspiring, right? Like whether you are an NFL quarterback or a classroom teacher, there's parts of our work we don't like. And that's a really difficult reality I don't know if everybody is introduced to when they're starting to think about what their career is like, especially young people, right? There's this perception that you're supposed to like all of it, right? That your job is supposed to be fun or fulfilling or passion-filled or purposeful all the time. And when it's not that, right? So many people are sold this message that you're supposed to be passionate about every aspect of your work. And I want to say this loud and clear. Teachers especially are sold this message that you are supposed to be passionate about everything you do as an educator, that you're supposed to love students all the time. You're supposed to love the process and the work, and you've got to put all you've got into it. And if you're not, you're doing something wrong. I saw a keynote from an education speaker recently where this person was talking about how schools should be like Disney World, where kids should be excited to go to school because it's like Disney World, and the people are so kind, and there's this culture that everybody loves to be a part of, and so school needs to be like Disney World, right? You're supposed to love every bit of it. And it's like, yeah, that's not how it works. It's not how it works in schools. It's not how it works in the quote unquote real world. But this is what I think a lot of people are sold, especially in the workplace right now. I was reading this study put on by McKinsey, the research agency, and they found that 77% of Gen Z workers, so Gen Z is, I think it's qualified between like 1996 and 2014, something like that. So the generation that's largely moving out of education right now and into the workforce, 77% of them are currently looking for a new job, right? That's nearly double the rate of other generations. So people that have jobs, employment, and are looking for something else. And they also report in this study that there are more obstacles to working effectively than any other age group, and significantly higher rates of mental health challenges and just dissatisfaction with the workforce. And I think this raises the question, does this mean that Gen Z is inherently lazy or entitled? Is that what the problem is? It's like, no, I don't think that's what it means. I think what we're looking at is obviously there's factors in the workforce that need to be addressed. So like, of course, it's partly tied to the workforce and how it's changing and the world's changing and students aren't necessarily being adequately prepared for those changes and how to operate in that world. So like, I think that's part of it. I also would like to suggest that it has to do with a lot of people having an unrealistic expectation about what work is supposed to feel like. Right? Because, and you can look at so much evidence of this, but like how many kids are addicted to technology or addicted to satisfaction at all times? Like, oh, I'm not supposed to be bored because I always have this device to keep me entertained. I'm not supposed to be bored in school. So much messaging towards educators is like, you've got to make it fun all the time. And when you don't, the phone is going to win or the distractions are going to win. And so there's so much tailoring to that idea. There's also the fact that kids, I should have pulled up the stat before starting the recording, but it's a staggering amount of kids who have nothing but structured time every single day after school, meaning their entire lives are highly, highly structured. I go to this highly structured environment in school. And then I go to sports practice afterwards, and I have this highly structured time there where I'm playing soccer, and then I get home, and I go to bed, and then the structure begins the next day where everything is catered towards you, and it's highly scheduled and manufactured for you to optimize all the time. And then you get into the workforce, and it's like, yeah, it's not always geared towards you, or it's not always pleasurable, or there's these aspects of work that are really difficult and not joyful or not purposeful feeling, and it doesn't fill you up, but they still have to get done. And all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't know how to do that. That's not what the rest of my life look like. Right? Like many of us have been sold this message that passion and pleasure are the ultimate goal. And when you are deprived of either, something is wrong. But the fact is, there is always aspects of work and life that are difficult and mundane and uninspiring. So let's start with that. And don't worry, we're going to find a nice twist on it in just a minute. This isn't going to be a downer episode, but let's start with that reality that you don't have to love every aspect of your work. And I understand why we think that we should, because let's also be honest about this, is, you go on social media and pretty much most people who post on social media are either decrying about how much they hate their work, or they're showing the very, very best parts of it, and that's the only part of the picture that you're actually seeing. Right? Like they share like, oh, look how much fun I'm having in my work, or look how great this vacation is because I go and do this job. And like there's this messaging like, oh, we're supposed to be satisfied and happy and joyful and having fun and snorkeling and cliff diving and fill in all the blanks of what like the perfect life looks like. That's what social media gives us. Or it gives you the other side. I hate my job. I hate teaching. I hate doing all these things. And this is how bad it is, right? Like social media is really good on preying on either ends of those spectrums, right? Like there are a lot of social media pages that only show the negative parts of teaching, right? There is a lot out there that shows like, oh man, teaching must be miserable, right? Like, to be honest, there's a lot of like teacher comedy. I don't know if you follow any of that on social media, or that like, hey, some of it's funny and some of it makes you feel seen. That's great. But most that I witness is largely about like, look how terrible this job is. And it's like, well, yeah, absolutely. There are parts that are real, and I think it's good to call them out. But when you're only focused on the negative, it's hard to believe. It's like, oh no, but there's also really good parts of this work. And it's easy to get drowned in that. Or like I said, the opposite, you go to the Pinterest pages of the perfect classrooms. You see some stuff where people post on Instagram, like their perfect, beautiful, manicured classroom. It's like, oh man, why isn't mine like that? Like, why am I lesser? Why am I not trying hard enough? And it's like, man, neither of those are real world, right? Like there's actually realities about our work that we don't necessarily have to love all the time, right? Just because you're a proud educator, or let's fill in the blank, just because you're a proud educator or parent or salesman or lawmaker or pastor or police officer, whatever it is, doesn't mean that you have to love everything about your role, right? Dog walkers can love dogs, but still hate picking up their poop, right? Like I said, parenting a moment ago, right? Like if you knew me, and hopefully I've put this out there enough times, I love being a parent. It's the greatest thing I've ever done with my life is to raise my kids alongside my wife. But I love parenting so much. I love the joy. I love the fun. I love the adventure. I love the unexpectedness. I love vacations. I love family dinners. I love watching my kids overcome. I love geeking out with my kids about stuff. My son is into birding right now, and I mean into birding. And guess what? I love getting into birding with him. I love going outside and desperately searching for a scarlet tanager and the joy that comes. Yesterday we went on a hike, and my son was like, he's like, I really want another foy. I was like, what's a foy? He's like, it's the first of the year, the first time you've seen that species this year. I was like, all right, let's go find a foy, bud. And we're out there, and we spotted they're called a butterbutt. So it's a yellow-rumped warbler, and we lost our minds together. And I was just like having this moment where I'm like, man, I love parenting. It's so much fun. But let's just be honest, it's not that all the time. There are parts of parenting I don't love, right? Like my daughter, who I just love geeking out with other things with her. She's doing Odyssey of the Mind right now. And after school today, we are going to Goodwill, and we're going to go thrifting and help put together a robot costume for her big contest coming up next weekend. And it's like, I can't wait to do that. I love it. If you can't tell, I love it. And yet, man, did she have a meltdown this weekend where I had to say no about something, and then she spoke disrespectfully to me, and I had to set a boundary, and we had to, I had to have some stern words about the way we can talk to each other, and the way you can talk to me, and the way I should talk to you, and it was tough, and she didn't like it, and there was tears, and we had to talk about it, and it was really difficult. And I remember her in the midst of it, she's like, well, why couldn't you just say yes originally? And it was something really small. I was like, well, sweetheart, I can't say yes to everything. Well, why not? I'm like, well, let me start by saying, I don't like saying no. Or like, I don't get joy in telling you no. That's not fun. I'd love to say yes to everything. But I've got a different perspective from you. And I've lived a long time, and I'm highly invested in your childhood, in your joy right now, but then who you also become. And part of that formation is me saying no. And I know that's hard to hear. But it's like, it's what I have to do. And she understood that. And I was really proud of her for understanding. And it was a really joyful kind of transition from frustration to something good. And I like that. But I got to be honest with you, I didn't like the encounter. I didn't like the conflict. And like I told her, I don't like saying no, right? There's aspects of parenting that suck. There's aspects of being a human that are not a whole lot of fun. There's aspects of teaching that aren't a whole lot of fun. There's aspects of being a taxpayer and a citizen and like that just aren't fun, but they're necessary. They're part of the job description. So you don't have to love all of it to love it, right? Like I don't love every aspect of parenting, and yet I love it. I don't love every aspect of my work, but I can still love my work, right? You don't have to love all of it. However, and now this is where let's shift the gear here. However, what is necessary is loving certain aspects of your work. So let me say that again. You don't have to love all your work, but it's actually crucial that you love certain aspects of it. There has to be a part of what you do that you love in order to actually thrive and not burn out from your work. I was reading this researcher named Marcus Buckingham. He says that we should love doing at least 20% of the tasks of our work in order to prevent burning out. He calls it the 20% rule. It shows that people need to experience some enjoyment every single day while they work in order to be content with our career choices. Right? We need to know that the stuff we don't necessarily enjoy is going to be worth it. Right? Like saying no to my children and having these conflicts, there is a payoff. Like it's an investment. Not loving every part of your work is worth it because you get to love other parts of it. And what he says is that you have to love at least 20% of it. And my hope for you, listener, whether you're an educator or a parent or somebody that just stumbled upon the Epic Classroom podcast, my hope for you is that you love more than 20% of it, right? Like I hope you love more than that, but that is what he says, according to this research, which is kind of compelling. I'll link the research in the show notes. You got to love at least 20% of it. You cannot dread your work. I was talking to my brother and he said, I've got a friend who does something like financial planning or something like that. And he was talking about, or maybe he sells insurance, I'm not sure, but he says he hates his job. Like just absolutely hates it. 9 to 5 every single day, despises his work. And my brother said, well, then why don't you go do something else? He's like, well, it pays good and it has benefits. I'm like, ooh, I hear ya. It's nice to be paid well and have benefits, but we're talking 8 to 9 hours every single day, 5 days a week of your human existence, hating it. It's like, is that I don't know if that's a good idea, right? I don't know if you want to wait to just to retirement to start living because you might not make it there. Or you make it there and you look back and like, wow, I just spent 30 years hating my time. It's like, that doesn't sound good. And so does that mean that person needs to shift out of it? Well, maybe. Absolutely, maybe. Or maybe you need to find ways to insert joy, or another way of putting it, insert enjoyment, things that you like to do into your work, because otherwise it's not sustainable. You will not make it all the way through, right? Like we need to know that the stuff that we don't necessarily enjoy is worth it. For instance, I love leading discussions. Yeah, whether it's with students or adults, one of my favorite things to do professionally is to introduce an idea and then create a space where people can talk about it and wrestle with it and exchange thoughts about it. I mean, I love the unpredictability of where conversations go and just watching the energy in the room shift and change as I stop being the sage on the stage and other people take over and seeing where they're going. Like, I just love it. I can't tell you how many times I've done a keynote or a workshop and I open up to discussion and people start going and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have to cut from this keynote right now because this is too good to interrupt. Like I'm reading the room and I'm listening and it's like there's this good thing that's happening that I don't want to interrupt, and the best learning is happening. I've done it with students too, to where you're like, oh yeah, there's like this alchemy to where you create the right structure and culture and people discuss, and I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of being an educator. Now, on the other hand, I've never really loved the documentation side of being an educator. Right. I don't love entering information into systems or tracking data in spreadsheets or keeping up with the administrative and logistical details that happen behind the scenes. Right. I understand why those pieces matter. They're necessary, but they don't feel nearly as creative and energizing to me. And I say that knowing that to some people, that's highly energizing. That's incredibly creative work. And you love the work of data. Great. Not me. I do not like the documentation side of education or professional development and speaking and consulting and all that stuff. It doesn't energize me. But both of these realities exist within the same job. And part of the reason I'm able to do the parts of the work that don't inspire me is because I'm filled up by the parts that do. Right? I've met teachers who love designing projects, but they dread lecturing. I've talked to teachers who love one-on-one conferences with students, but they struggle with large group instruction. I talk to teachers who love coaching student thinking, but they hate paperwork, right? Like it's the same job, different 20%, different things that light you up about it, right? Like, and I think that can apply to so many aspects of our work. I love getting to go and travel around and speak with teachers all over the world. It's just, I can't believe it sometimes. I'm like, I can't believe I get to go and present to and connect with educators from all walks of life. And I love the conversations and the stories. I love being in rooms with people who deeply care about kids. I love telling stories and getting to do this thing I love. I love it. But I don't love the transportation part of it all the time. Sometimes I do, but I never love a canceled flight. I never love long security lines. I never love the lines at the rental car place. I never love, speaking at a school until 3 p.m. and then having a 5 o'clock flight and just wondering if I'm going to make it and then not making it and having to spend the night at another airport and being away from home. And I don't love lines at the rental car place or Uber drivers who cross 5 lines of traffic all at once, which, by the way, happened in Dallas, Texas last summer at 11:50 p.m. at night, and I thought I was going to die. I didn't love it, right? Like, I don't always love that part of my job. Yet still, I have to do it in order to do the work I actually love. I have to travel to do the work that just lights me up, And if it weren't for the parts of the work that light me up, that bring me real joy, I wouldn't make it very long doing it. It wouldn't be worth it to me. Right? You need to love parts of your work too. And so if you're an educator, here's a question for you. And I really challenge you to think about this. If you're driving right now, maybe pause the podcast after this questions, and think about it for a moment and then hit unpause. What parts of your job do you really enjoy? What tasks do you genuinely love doing or enjoy doing? Whatever your answer is, you can do your pause right now. All right, welcome back. Whatever your answer is, it's crucial that you treat those as more than extras or indulgences to your work, right? They are essentials, right? You need them. They need to be a regular part of your schedule. And if you're thinking to yourself right now, well, I don't have much room in my schedule for the parts of my job that actually bring me joy, well, then as hard as it is, you need to make room in your schedule for them. Right? It's not optional. You will burn out. Lots of educators burn out from their work. Lots of them. And part of that is because it's really, really hard work. But I think also a part of it is because we're not making space for the stuff that makes the hard work worth it, that makes the monotony, the difficulties, the structure, whatever it is, worth it. Right? So try this. List the tasks that energize you, and then list the tasks that drain you. And then look for ways to increase the energizing ones, even if it's by a small percentage, right? You don't have to redesign your entire job to do this. It might just mean making small intentional shifts, right? Do you love class discussion? Well, add a few more structured discussions per week, just a couple. That raises the percentage closer to 20%. Do you want to work one-on-one more? Well, then maybe shorten a whole group lesson and build in conferencing time. Maybe you need to take an online course or get some PD on how to do conferencing time well so that you feel like that this time's used well. Like, that's the type of thing we should be having professional development for, right? Do you love doing projects? Well, turn one traditional unit into a project. See what happens. Take that step. See how it goes, right? Like, need more creativity in your work? Are you feeling a little humdrum about your work? Your creative potential isn't happening? Well, maybe you need to protect a weekly block of time just to write or build or plan something new, even if it feels like, man, I don't have a whole lot of time for it. Well, then something else has to go. What do you need to sacrifice in order to do that? Because we need to enjoy parts of our work. Because here's the thing, right? These small additions or tweaks, maybe it's even just simplifying the draining tasks. Maybe it's using templates, batching similar work together, setting reasonable time limits, decide what actually needs to be polished and what simply can be done, right? That maybe you don't need to grade everything. Maybe you need to lean on AI a little bit to do some of your grading and formative assessments, because that buys you time to do more of what you need in order to thrive in your work. But whatever it is, these small changes add up. A handful of extra moments each week spent doing work that energize you can quietly change how you experience your entire job. It will make you better at your work and more satisfied with the work that you're doing. I'm a big fan of the show's Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe. Do you remember that one where he goes and the whole premise of the show is that he goes and spends a day with people who are doing some of the dirtiest, messiest type of work that you can imagine. And there's some really difficult stuff. And Mike Rowe has just said many, many times, the host of the show, Mike Rowe, has said many times that these are some of the happiest people he's ever met. The people who are emptying septic tanks and painting bridges and working in coal mines, some of the happiest people he knows. And he's got this quote that's stuck with me for many years. Mike Rowe says, listen, don't follow your passion, but always bring it with you, right? Like a lot of these people aren't necessarily passionate about emptying septic tanks, but they're passionate people. They don't love every aspect of their work, but they're people who are passionate about some form of service that they're providing, and that fuels everything else. And that's why it sticks with me, right? There's parts of your day you don't enjoy, and that's okay, because you will also have tasks and moments that are planned where you do, right? I don't love grading. Yep, I get it, and yet we have to grade. All right, but what do I love? And is there enough of that to keep me afloat, to keep me reminded that like, oh yeah, I like this work. This is good work. This is purposeful work. This is work I can do for the long run. That's what we need. So that's what we can do. And that would be my challenge for you, because I know the reason I wanted to talk about this today is it is winter time. It is February. And I don't know if you're listening to this in February, but I'm recording this and it is cold outside and it is dreary. And these days seem to just go on, and the weeks go on, and you're just like, it can be a little bit more challenging to find joy this time of year. And I think you need to know that's okay to not enjoy everything. This is something I'm speaking to myself right now, by the way. I don't know if you've ever taken the Enneagram test. It's a personality quiz to figure out what personality are you. Look it up. I'm an Enneagram 7. I want to suck the marrow from the bones of life. I want to get as much as I can out of this experience. And when I'm not, it sometimes can trouble me. It can give me anxiety if I'm not enjoying all of it. But part of growing up has been learning that you don't have to enjoy all of it, but you should enjoy some of it. And so what is it that you enjoy in your work, and how can you make more of that happen? All right, that's all I got for today. Thanks for listening to this episode, everybody. If you are not subscribed to this podcast, would you just take a moment to subscribe so that you get it every week? And feel free to leave a review, share it with your friends. What a joy it is to get to connect with you. Again, if you live anywhere near me, or even if you don't, hey, it's open to everybody. We'd love to see you on March 9th at the PBL workshop. It's going to be really fun. So trevormuir.com/PBL-workshop. All right, that's all I got. I'm Trevor. This is the Epic Classroom Podcast. Talk to you next time.